Okay, so the full, more complicated model. What's going on? So again, we've got household, we've got a final goods sector, and we've got the mine, and we've got someone digging there. Sorry, I'm making a bit of a hash of this picture. My pen's running out. To get a new pen from work tomorrow. Right. Okay. And we've got a flow of the resource X. We've got labor L. Of that, Ly goes here, and Lx goes here. So by contrast to the model before, when we had costly extraction, then it was the final good being used in the mine. Here it's labor. We could do either. Things will work out the same, okay, in the end. And we have a Cobb-Douglas production function as usual. Now I could say AY Ly to the 1 minus alpha x to the alpha, where x is the resource input. And this pen really is running out. Let me see if I've got something else that works. Okay, this works for now. Right. So what else is going on? So x, the rate of extraction here per hour or day or whatever units we've got, is Lx, which is just the amount of labor, Ax, which is the productivity of that labor, divided by AD, and AD is some function of D, the depth. Okay. And it turns out that we assume that AD is actually e to the power of D. So the difficulty of getting the stuff out increases exponentially in the depth. And AY and AX, they both grow at G. So that AY dot over AY is G, AX dot over AX is G. So we just keep that nice and simple. Then what is the rate of change of D? It turns out D dot is the width phi, or the surface area if you like, it doesn't matter. Sorry, it is x divided by phi. So imagine this surface area is 1 and x is like 10, then D dot will be 10. So we're extracting 10 units per time unit per day or whatever. The surface area is 1, so each day will go 10 units down. Okay, but if the surface area would be 2 instead, and we're extracting 10 units, then we'd only go down by 5 units. So D dot is x over 5. Okay. So then what we really want to know is AD, not D, right? So AD dot, what is that? Well, we can just write it if we like as DAD by dt. That's just the same thing by definition. But dAd by dt is the same thing. This is a form of the chain rule as dAd by dd dd by dt. dAd by dd is just the differential of this. AD is e to the d, dAd by dd. If you know how to differentiate an exponential, you know that that is e to the d. dd by dt is just d dot. So AD dot is e to the d, d dot. e to the d is just AD. Okay, so AD dot over AD is D dot. Is D dot, which is x over phi. Okay. So what's that telling us? It's telling us that the growth rate of the difficulty of getting the stuff out of the mine is linear in the extraction rate x. Okay, so if we double the extraction rate, we double the growth rate of this difficulty factor. Okay. Now, instead of doing a full solution of this model, we're just going to look again at like 3 cases. Guess what? Start with a primitive economy in which AY is very small. What happens? Okay, so when AY is very small, well, yeah, I should have said probably that AX is very small too. Let me see what the notes say. Yeah, okay. Both AY and AX are very small. These productivity factors are very small. So it means that even if we, for some reason, send everyone down the mine, extraction will be very low. Okay? So X is very low because these people, they're just scratching the surface. Okay, there's this huge stock of resources. We've got very primitive technology. We're in the Stone Age. We're just scratching the surface. So AD dot over AD is more or less 0. Okay, AD is constant. Right. So X is small. D and AD are going to be constant. I think I need to write these out. So if D and AD are constant, so AD is constant, X is LX AX. Let me see. So I just got to think here. Just want to pause here. Okay, so sorry, I just had to think there. So where were we? Primitive economy, AY and AX are small, so X is small, D and AD are constant. And now I think what we're just going to do is assume that we're on a balanced growth path. So LX and LY are each constant. If LX is constant, then X, which is LX AX over AD, then X dot over X is, well, LX is constant, AD is constant, so it's just AX dot over AX, which is G. So in that case, X, the rate of extraction, is going to grow at G. LY is constant, AY is growing at G, X is growing at G, so Y is also going to grow at G, because Y dot over Y from here is 1 minus alpha AY dot over AY, which is G, plus alpha X dot over X, which is G. So, which confirms the idea of balanced growth, basically. When extraction productivity is extremely low, the depth is constant, labor is allocated constantly, the rate of extraction grows at G, the rate of production grows at G. And we still have the constant share result, which we can do if we want to set up a profit maximizing thing here, or we can just remember that it's going to be like this. The factor share of the resource is alpha Y. And since x and y are both growing at the same rate, we know that wx must be constant. Okay, so that's the early days, and that is like the abundant resource, costly to extract. That's what we're seeing today. Okay, we're scratching the surface, apparently, of our resource stocks. That's why prices aren't going up, according to this model. What about a balanced growth path on which x is constant? Can we have something like that? Does there exist such a path? Let's see. So we're told that x is constant. Okay, so x dot over x is naught. And we've got balanced growth. And we know that x is lx ax over ad. If it's balanced growth, then lx must be constant, because the labor allocation can't be changing. Otherwise, we're never going to have balance. So that tells us, and ax grows at g, so that tells us that ad must be growing at g. Okay. Okay, I've screwed up the notation a bit there. So AD dot over AD must be G, or theta AY, and I put there in the notes, but it should be G. But we know that AD dot over AD is X over phi. We worked that out earlier, so we know that X over phi is G, X is phi times G. So there's a particular rate of extraction, phi times G, where phi is that surface area and G is the growth rate, at which the increase in depth is just right to make the price grow at the right rate to keep extraction constant. Because remember, we've still got Wxx equals alpha y. Now x is constant, y is growing. So Wx dot over Wx is y dot over y, yeah? So we've characterized the path. Okay, so what happens is, initially, when productivity is very low, we scratch the surface and extraction increases exponentially and the price is constant. But at some point, we start actually stopping scratching the surface and starting to actually significantly increase the depth. And as that increase in depth gathers pace, we're going to reach a rate of extraction like this, where the rate of extraction is constant and the price tracks the growth. So then it's a little bit like the first simple model with land. But this phase can't go on either. Even a constant extraction rate isn't sustainable in the long run. In the long run, the resource must actually start running out, right? And then when we start scraping the barrel, we're starting to reach the very bottom, the last resources here. Then, of course, depth is again constant. But now, with constant depth, extraction costs are constant. Remember the productivity wage thing? Extraction costs will stay the same, but the scarcity rent will be rising. Now we're looking at, oh, this is running out. The scarcity rent kicks in. And that, as we know, will rise at the interest rate. So the cost of extracting is constant, but the scarcity rent is rising at the interest rate. Before too long, the scarcity rent is going to completely dominate, in which case we have Wx dot over Wx is just equal to the interest rate, and we have the third case, it's just hoteling with rising price and steeply declining extraction. On a non-log scale, we know that extraction is going to decline exponentially, right? So that in the limit of infinite time, we use up the last tiny bits of resource. Back to the log scale, if this is time, then let's see, GDP starts like this, and then it's going to tilt down somewhat. Resource extraction rate starts tracking GDP, passes through a level phase, and then has to head down. Resource price, in this phase the resource price is constant. In this phase it's going up. In this phase it's going up even more steeply. Okay, that's the model, and I'm going to stop there.